Julia or Bree, if somebody could go and leave a message in I see someone joined our Teams link.
Okay.
If we could get them on the right path. I think we have somebody else in there, Bree.
Yes, it's AR meeting notes.
Okay, perfect.
I'm
Again,
going
it's
to,
so great to see everybody in 2026. I was on another meeting yesterday and I made a comment that, and they agreed that Christmas just feels like it was such a long, century ago, and it wasn't even a full month away yet. So I think we all hit the ground running once the holiday season tapered down. So I appreciate everybody joining with that renewed spirit of 2026. Okay, well, we are straight up at 9 o'clock. And so to honor everybody's time and commitment, we will convene the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel. My name is Melissa. All right. And Bree and I practiced this. Like we knew this was going to happen. And so this is all my air for not waiting for the recording in progress. Welcome to the January 6th Early Childhood Recommendations Panel. My name is Melissa Schoenberger, and I am the Early Childhood Systems Specialist with the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund, and I serve as the Recommendations Panel Chair. And just welcome everybody to our meeting today, those who are panelists and members who are joined, and those who are on live stream. I see, we have lots of panel members, and on my screen, I have this big smile on my face because I see Tabitha. And I was joined the Kansas Head Start Association state meeting yesterday. And Tabitha kicked us off. And I'm going to tap into Tabitha at our next meeting and make her kick us off. But what she did centered me yesterday in such a way that I was able to prepare and be present today. It's just a very simple mantra of take a deep breath. But she allowed us to take a deep breath and then get out all of the, what did you say, Tab? Dragon's breath, right? It's the dragon's breath, all of that stuff that goes with it. And I have decided that when I grow up, I want to be Tabitha because she brings such an energy and such a way to make meetings, virtual meetings, like you're present with her. And so I, again, want to be Tabitha when I grow up and want to make sure that I bring that same energy to the panel. And even when you're not feeling so well, you make sure that you still show up and you're present. And I just really appreciated that energy. And so before I got on, I took my deep breath, Tabitha. And so I just don't want to just do it one time. I want to make sure I continuously do it and honor all of those tips and tricks that you share. So always feel very special that we have a deep group of early childhood panelists that show up in other meetings and are just doing amazing things, and all that we can share in our base knowledge. So I just had to share that because it really impacted me. And so I hope everybody takes a deep breath and lets out that dragon breath, and really centers themselves and enjoys today's presentation. So welcome. And if we want to move on to our next slide. Just to remind everybody that this is a remote meeting, as I alluded to just a minute ago, and that we ask that everybody raise their hand, and when they come off mute, that they introduce themselves. Again, like I would say, I'm Melissa Schoenberger with the Children's Cabinet. Please make sure and identify yourself with your first and last name and where you represent. And we ask that you limit the content that you put into the chat. If you do have a question, we would love for you to verbalize that, because this is a live stream and a remote meeting, and we want to make sure that we're meeting all the accessibility requirements to have everybody who might listen to this tomorrow night, that they're just as engaged. Next slide, please. And for those who are new joining us, like to center us with the purpose of the recommendations panel. The Kansas Early Childhood Recommendations Panel serves an advisory to actually the Kansas Children's Cabinet. The Kansas Children's Cabinet serves as the state early childhood advisory through executive order. And really, we are grounded all within the foundational work of the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan. And really, the panel is our sounding board to make sure that we're moving forward in that plan. And then today's agenda is pretty robust. It's a multitude of topics. We're going to go through in a minute the very weedy part of our agenda, the approval of the January agenda, the approval of the December meeting minutes. We have some panel introductions as we want to get back to that cadence, Kansas in the news. And then you guys are going to be a critical voice, a part of the Commissioner of Education search. So we welcome our outside group who will be leading that conversation. And then we're going to hear from some of our own fellow panel members and talking about Kindergarten Readiness Toolkit. And then we're going to do some prep work for the Governance Summit. And then a brief work group summary, some systems updates, key takeaways, and then we'll break into our work groups for the day. So now let's segue right into just the formal aspects of our meeting, is the approval of the January agenda. So if I can have somebody come off mute and make a motion to approve our January agenda, I would greatly appreciate that.
This is Tammy Benham. I make a motion that we approve the January agenda.
Thank you, Tammy. Do I have a second?
Desiree.
Desiree, I'll let you go ahead and finish.
Desiree Straight, and I second.
Okay, and if we agree with accepting that motion, can everybody raise their hand? Or virtual hand, either one. Thank you, and may I have same sign if you disagree with that motion? Okay, the motion passes and we have accepted our January agenda. If I can have somebody come off mute and accept the December minutes. You guys were emailed that on Monday from Lindsay.
This is Brenda Bandy with the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the December meeting.
Thank you, Brenda. If I could have somebody second that, please.
This is Patty Peschel with Kansas Childcare Training Opportunities, and I would second that.
Thank you. May I have a sign for all of those voting in favor of accepting? Thank you. May I have the same sign for those who disagree? Okay, the motion passes for approval of our December minutes, and that takes care of the very formal component of our agenda. If we can move forward. Okay, we have our round 4 of our panel introductions. And so we ask that you introduce yourself, and if we can limit it to roughly around a minute, that would be even better. And again, I want to set the stage of why we're doing this, because I think it's important that your fellow panel members know who you are, and also have an ability to kind of highlight your work that you do outside of the panel. And then those who are joining us virtually get to see the makeup of the amazing folks who have volunteered to be a part of the recommendations panel. And I have not gone through everybody here this morning, so briefly we'll start with Mallory, and hopefully Mallory is present today. Okay, seeing Mallory is not present, we will move on to Brenda. Brenda Bandy.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm Brenda Bandy, Executive Director of the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition, and we are your state breastfeeding coalition. It's our job to make sure that you all have what you need to support breastfeeding families across our state. In Kansas, over 90% of families choose to breastfeed, so chances are, if you interact with families, that this is something that comes up. And we've been working in the early childhood space since 2013 with primarily childcare providers and those who support them to make sure that they are equipped and knowledgeable and confident in supporting the breastfeeding families and the infants in their care. So that is what we do, and that is why I'm here, and it is an honor to serve on this panel. Thank you.
And I will share that Brenda in her space will be missed, as Brenda is retiring, and the Breastfeeding Coalition is in search for an executive director with big shoes to fill, Brenda. So anybody sees, pass on that information. But I wanted to share that. Very big shoes to be filled. Thank you for all the work that you've done, Brenda. Megan Cook.
Hi, this is Megan Cook. I'm Executive Director of the Kansas City, Kansas Public School Early Childhood Program. And just a little bit about our program, we serve Head Start students as well as state pre-K, and we also have an ECBG grant. We have a fairly large group of early childhood students, about 1,500. And within our grants, we also serve early childhood special education in our collaborative setting.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself and the work that you guys do, Megan. I do not see Amy Goshmeyer, so we will move on to Janine. And
Hi, I'm Janine Foth. I'm the director of Cougar Cubs Daycare at we're a small center located at a center USD 397. So we kind of serve a lot of kind of that part of Marion County. We're right outside of Lost Springs, but we're kind of just in the middle of nowhere. We have a lot of little towns that come to us. So
thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
And I never label a center small or large, because you're even homes. You are doing a critical job, and you are serving children and families. So I appreciate everything that you do every day, and everybody taking care of our kiddos in Kansas. So glad you can make time to be a part of our panel.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for continuing to, as we move forward with introductions, we're getting closer to the end. Bree, if you want to move to the next slide, please. For those who are listening, and again, for our panel members, we do have a Kansas Open Forum where anybody who wants to join the panel outside of our regular group or bring a topic forward for the panel to discuss has that opportunity through this form, as long as it's submitted by 5 p.m. The day before. We did not have anybody share a topic or come forth. So I want to make sure that we still have that open conversation about what's going on in Kansas. So then we've added the Kansas in the news. And so if we want to go to the next slide, I hope you all indulge me, but I really wanted to highlight and share the annual report from the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. It's the 2025 report, and really appreciate the message. There's a message from the executive director in the report, and I to share with everybody, Melissa Rooker, the executive director of the Children's Cabinet, her final parting thoughts. And I think it was just really a great way to again center ourselves as we begin this new year. But I love what she said, that we have a past to be proud of, but the future holds tremendous opportunity to strengthen our early childhood ecosystem and improve support for Kansas families. I look forward to working with all to achieve our vision that every child thrives. And again, that is the basic, very foundational blueprint of the Children's Cabinet and the work that we do, is that making sure that every child thrives. And I wanted to highlight a few pieces of the annual report, and we have the link there below. But one of the pieces that I wanted to share with you guys is, especially as we're getting ready to have a very, engaged conversation about the centering around the search for the new commissioner, the education commissioner. I go back to, when we shared the podcast with Commissioner Watson and really talking about early literacy. It was such a core moment for myself, and I think it resonated a lot with panel members. So I pulled out and looked at some of the details of the annual report, specifically related to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And this is just a small snippet of the work of the Children's Cabinet and the early child ecosystem. But we have over 77,000 children enrolled from birth to age 5. I think that is amazing. And in just 1 year, they distributed over 900,000 books. And that was from July of 2024 to June of 2025, aligned with the fiscal year. And just in that fiscal year alone, we enrolled 21,000 children. So just the impact of just the Imagination Library on early literacy, getting that good threshold. And I really wanted to share this because later on we're going to be talking about kindergarten readiness. And this is a cog in that wheel about kindergarten readiness. And they're tracking and looking at that the Imagination Library participants made significantly better progress on key measures of early literacy compared to children who did not participate in the program. So this is all great information that you're going to find in the annual report. So, and this is a snippet, like this is really just like the top of the iceberg. There's so much more that the state is doing in investments in children. Encourage you to look at the report. I keep it is bookmarked on my desktop to make sure that I'm constantly revisiting it and then looking at the benchmarks we made in 2024 to where we are in 2025. But I just really thought it was fitting to share that snippet with you about the early literacy. And again, encourage everybody listening and on our panel to take some time and look at the great information and all the work that we do. No wonder we're always tired in the annual report. be brief. We can move to the next slide. Okay, now we're going to really, like I said, we're going to have a great conversation where it's a two-way conversation. So I really want panel members to send out those questions in advance so that you are actively sharing in part of what I think is a pivotal role in our state. The search for the Commissioner of Education. And I'm going to hand this over to Natalie McLean from the Department of Education, who is going to introduce Frank Henderson, who will be handling this conversation. So Natalie, if you would like to do introductions, I would appreciate that.
Great. Good morning, panel. I'm Natalie McLean with Kansas State Department of Education. As many of you know, Dr. Randy Watson, our Kansas Commissioner of Education, has notified our State Board of Education of his intent to retire. He's served our agency and the children and families of Kansas well for the past 10 years, and I'm personally sad to see him go. Today, we have the opportunity to provide some input to help inform the search for our next Commissioner of Education. The Kansas State Board of Education has engaged the search firm of HYA to support them in selecting a new commissioner. The State Board and HYA identified a number of stakeholder groups who should share input to inform this work, and they included our early childhood as an area that should provide perspectives. KSDE identified the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel as an excellent group to provide this feedback. So Frank Henderson of HYA Associates is joining the panel today to gather information from all of us that will inform their work. So I'm happy to turn it over to Frank to gather some information from the panel on our ideas around a new Commissioner of Education. Frank?
All right. Thank you, Natalie, and good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right. Very good. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for everyone that had a role in having me come today, and I look forward to being able to have this period of dialogue. We all share the passion of the importance of early childhood education. I've been working with HYA for 3 years, but I'm a Kansas kid. I served for 16 years on the Seaman School Board of Education, and we always made it a priority to see what we could do to expand our early child opportunities as much as we could. And in Kansas, as with any place else, if you invest in early childhood, everyone wins. And so I appreciate the work that the panel is doing and that what you've done to help kids and children in Kansas over the years. Really looking forward to the opportunity to hear from you this morning. As Natalie so adequately explained what the task is before us, Commissioner Watson has served well, and whoever that next person is that the board selects as commissioner needs to be able to understand and hear what those out in the field have to say and what is going on in Kansas public education, what's going on in early childhood. And so these focus groups that we've been holding is a way to be able to get that voice back to the state board and also to candidates. We've gathered information from about 40 focus groups, and this information that we gathered today will be put into a document called the Leadership Profile Report. Now, our firm HYA does searches all over the nation. We do a lot of the large school district searches as well as state superintendent or state commissioner searches. And so candidates know that this document, Leadership Profile Report, is coming out. And so they will watch to see what's in that report, because there'll be those that will say, I want to know what's going on in Kansas. What does that land look like there? And so with the information we received today, we'll be able to see what the challenges are, what the immediate priorities should be, what the strengths of the Kansas Department of Education and the Kansas Public Education are. And then also, more importantly, what professional qualifications and personal attributes you're going to be looking for the new commissioner. So Candace will be able to look at that. Additionally, we will use that with the board, and when we begin to recruit, we'll be able to match and see who best fits what Kansans are looking for. Once the board selects a candidate, then we also use that tool for transitioning and be able to transition that new commissioner into the mission, visions, the values of Kansas, and to be able to make a true smooth transition so we all can win. That's the whole idea behind it. So again, I thank you for your time today and thank you for your input. I appreciate the questions being able to be reviewed in advance. I know you guys are fabulous and will be great. Any questions before we start? Okay, Melissa's shaking her head no. Okay, so let's just start with the first question. What are the strengths of the Kansas State Department of Education that the next commissioner can build upon? And I'm going to try to capture these comments as they come. So what are the strengths that we see in Kansas public education?
Good morning. This is Kelly France Langford with TARC. I would
Morning,
say,
Kelly.
good morning. I would say one of the strengths in the area of early childhood is the commitment to work across different systems in Kansas. Our early childhood programs are housed in many different areas across the state. And I feel like the Department of Education has worked well in building a collaboration across those partnerships.
Excellent, excellent. That's so critical. Thank you.
Tabitha Rossbroy, Kansas Parent Information Resource Center. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Tabitha. Yes, I want to go up and be Tabitha also.
Oh gosh, I'm like so glad I was on time to the meeting today, so I could be smiling so big. I think one of the strengths of KSDE and Dr. Watson in particular is that they trust the people who are doing the work. The people who are in the field, the people who are family facing, child facing, and they call on that expertise to inform their decisions. And I hope that KSDE can continue to do that work with new leadership.
Excellent. Sounds like you have two-way communication going.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, what other strengths? I know we have lots of strengths in Kansas. We do.
Abdul Yahaya with Open Minds Child Development Center.
Yes,
I
sir.
think one of the strengths is that in the early ed special education, connecting with private centers as well. So right now, like for special education, the school district only goes down to 3 years old, but they have to commit to busing those students who are at those centers to different sites. So just continuous support, whether it's in rural or in urban areas, that sometimes it's not physical infrastructure that needs to be built. It's more infrastructure between partnerships in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's so critical. And I always like hearing the stories when we're able to support and kind of go the extra mile sometimes. Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, this is Melissa Martin with Sparkquill. And I was debating whether to offer this strength in this section or as a strength that we would also be looking for that, in terms of priorities and qualifications, because Dr. Watson, I believe, has, and thus the department has done such an impressive job in preparing for the future,
Okay.
preparing for what education and what world around us might look like in 3 years or 5 years or 20 years. And I think that has been just such an important piece of what Dr. Watson has led. And so I want us to build on that. I don't want us to lose that. I think it's been really important, and it's a dance, I know, but I think that's a really important thing to keep hold of and build upon.
Thank you. So it sounds like we want to continue to build upon what we have, and also someone that's able to be a visionary and continue to drive
That's
us
it.
forward.
And I
Yeah,
think that we have implemented things that are visionary in and of themselves. And so I don't want us to see those things end.
absolutely. Thank you.
I travel across the state quite a bit. This is Melissa Schoenberger.
Yes.
And we have 105 counties in our state. And then you have this layered that with the school districts, that even though each county and each school district is unique, I think the strengths is that there's some common benchmarks that when you go into all of these communities and you sit down with coalitions, that you still have common benchmarks that across Kansas. And I think that is a testament to the reach out and want to see that, as to tag on to the other Melissa, is to also be something that moves forward in the future too, that you can't just abandon one area of the state because it's further away from Topeka, and you have to look at the whole state to be a thriving ecosystem. And I think that's I'm always impressed with some of that common language that you see across the state, and don't want to see that. Don't ever want us to lose sight of that.
Absolutely. That is critical. I've always said that a child in Kansas should be able to get a good quality education regardless of their zip code. And so that's great. Thank you.
My name is
Katie?
Kathy Gray,
Yes,
and
Kathy.
I actually work on a group here for this recommendations panel that's focused on targeted journey recruitment, so workforce development, supporting the early childhood workforce. And so the high school pathways that KSDE has created we're finding are very integral to supporting the early childhood workforce. So I am pleased to see the unique ways that high schools can put together pathways. And I think that's a strength, but I would like to see that be something that's focused on. So because we have been working a lot on the career pathway for early childhood education. And so I think that's something we would like to see continue in the next several years.
Excellent. Yeah, and that is critical, and it gives opportunity for high school students to be able to learn early childhood when they're still young. So that's very good. Thank you. Okay, any more strengths? Pardon me, before we move to, excuse me, any more strengths before we move to challenges?
Yeah, this is Patty Peschel, Director for Casito.
Yes.
And I just want to add, I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the strength of the personnel at KSDE, specifically where we, within the early childhood realm, with leadership with Amanda Peterson, I can speak that she has always, always consistently looking for ways to create those pathways for information sharing that strengthens both, I think, their internal operations and external partnerships. She's phenomenal with being able to bridge the work that they're doing in our organizations, support service orgs, and just the involvement with, several from within KSDE, and some of those here on this call too, that has really strengthened us as an organization in their partnerships.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to number 2. And anytime if you want to come back to number one, you can do that. We're not stuck. So what are the challenges the new commissioner will face in the next 2 or 3 years? Sometimes I refer to these challenges as opportunities. So what do we see in terms of challenges?
Tabitha Rossbroy, Caperk. I think challenges are shifting leadership at the state level. And, I know that people are aware of these things, but that affects, what we're doing in the classrooms. And just continued, federal funding shortages, especially in the area of early childhood. And just knowing how to be the best advocate for children and families in that time.
Mhm. Very good. Yeah, I was talking with some folks yesterday and we were commenting on the fact that the new commissioner will have a new governor, new members of the legislature, also new members on the state board, and then also within a short period of time, most likely a new school finance formula.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. So it is a lot. What else?
Hi, Laura Evans, early coordinator USD 252 for early childhood. And I'm going to piggyback off of what you said about it being a opportunity to not necessarily a challenge. But the fact that early childhood, the departments are all under one umbrella now,
Right.
I think that is a great opportunity for everybody to work and strive toward building all of those partnerships. And it'll be exciting to see what that looks like in the next 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori. And I'm expecting that to be positive. I really do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Melissa Schomburger, I think one of the challenges that we see in the early childhood is the workforce and being able to maintain the early childhood workforce, when you're looking at compensation, and then not only facing challenges of there's an exodus due to retirement and not necessarily, just that natural transition, and who is going to fill those spots. And that's even in my own school district that I see. I was out to dinner last night and saw a couple teachers and they shared they were retiring. And so I thought about the challenges today of like, what does that workforce look like and moving forward to fill those. I mean, and I know that's in any sector, but really filling those gaps, like that is an important and enticing, students to graduate from high school and then want to get back into the education. What does that look like? Is that, it feels like it's a challenge more so ever than it has been in the past.
Yeah, very true. It has been a challenge. And I was told that at one of the universities, the numbers of graduates by Department of Education or going into School of Education have increased a little bit. So I'm hoping we continue to see a trend with more students going into education. Thank you.
Desiree Straight. I'm a family child care provider. And so I think that a challenge for a new commissioner, I think there's been a huge growth in child care centers into the schools. And obviously that's going to be a challenge as far as like a broad amount of education that or information that they have to be aware of, as far as everything in your elementary schools that is important and everything in your high schools that are important, and then everything in your early childhood and your child care centers that we face, and then having, being able to support all of that entity.
So Desiree, as a family child care provider, do you have significant interaction with the school district?
Not, I wouldn't say there is, no.
But in my community, we added a center, and I had a great opportunity being a part of a support system for them as they were navigating how to do that. And I know that there were a lot of questions about regulations, and we had created a community group that could support and answer those questions. And um, I was honored to be a part of that and support that. And it's been an honor to see that center thrive in our community, being a rural community in South Central Kansas, and to be able to meet that need for our community.
Great. Thank you, Desiree.
Absolutely.
This is Trina Morgan, and I work at Kansas Children's Service League. And I would say a challenge being a parent of two adults with disabilities that went through their entire school career in Kansas schools is parent voice. And genuine respected parent voice is going to be a big challenge. And I would say not just from the urban areas. I'm from an urban area. We need parent voice from all areas of our state in the planning of this process, in the all of the changes that will be coming up. We need real honest parent voice in that, because how their children experience our schools is important to hear about.
Very good. Trina, do you feel like there is an opportunity for parent voice now?
I think for some there is.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot there isn't. We run home visitation programs.
Okay.
Those parents are not asked about what it's like to put their kids in schools very often, and why they don't, maybe why they're afraid to do that, and get them into systems and things like that. So, yeah, I'm not sure if in the early childhood realm there's as much parent voice in the school, in the operation of our schools as there could be, I guess. There's some, but I think there's always opportunity. I don't care how much we do it. There's always opportunities for more of it.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Can always increase involvement.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Trina.
My name is Tammy Benham, and I work for Southeast Kansas Library System. I'm going to veer a little bit off of early childhood in my comment, but so in the library world, we're watching an increase in the number of challenges made to the First Amendment and intellectual freedom in the form of attempted censorship or book challenges. All this is happening at a time when there's a significant decline in certified school library staff and the elimination of positions of school librarians in schools. And also a decrease in literacy scores. So I would say that's a very significant priority that needs to be addressed.
Very good. Thank you. Yes. And literacy, of course, has been a priority that the state board has established. So hopefully we'll be able to see some significant increases in that.
We don't have library representation at the state. However, the library systems are more than happy to provide. If you reach out to me, I will provide you research on the connection between certified school library staff and literacy scores. It exists.
Yeah, I believe that definitely. Well, thank you, Tammy, for what you're doing. Absolutely. Okay, let's go to priorities. What should be the top 2 or 3 priorities for the new commissioner? So once they start, he or she will be able to hit the ground running and identify those things that need to be addressed immediately.
Abdul Yahya with Open Minds.
Yes.
One thing I would like to see as a goal for that person is kindergarten readiness. It's just so important that how you enter the school system. We need to make sure that those scores and literacy and all that by 3rd grade are important, but how you start is so important. And so I would really like to see a commissioner who has that focus of starting strong.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that does make a big difference how you start. There's no question about that. Data supports that as well. What else for a priority? We know everything is important.
Tabitha Rossbrook, K-Perk.
Okay.
I got a lot to say, but I keep waiting for
That's
the pause,
okay.
to make sure. Um, I really think a big priority, and just tag teaming off what Trina said, is going to be engaging families through the strategic plan at the state level. There has been so many wonderful things that Kansas does to engage families. But we're adding new pieces in and things that really make sure family voices are being heard. And, in a time of change, sometimes things get dropped that are getting better. And I just really don't want to lose the focus, because research shows us over and over again that the missing piece in academic success is family engagement. And so I really hope that our state continues to build on that as a priority.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. Any other areas we can identify as a immediate priority? Okay, let's move on then to professional qualifications and personal attributes. This person coming in is going to have big shoes to fill and a lot of expectations. So what should this person look like, as in terms of what characteristics, what qualifications, what personal attributes do you want to see?
think it's important for someone in that role to be able to think divergently, to look across the different systems in Kansas and understand the interconnectedness that we all have.
Okay. Very good. Yes.
This is Brenda Bandy with the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition. And I think an important qualification and attribute would be to value the diversity in our state, not only geography, but also our racial diversity in our state, and be able to really center that.
Okay. Brendan, I'm going to drill down a little bit more. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I think recognizing the unique contributions of different communities across our state, even though their populations, I'm thinking specifically of our Indigenous community, while they may be small in number across our state, they bring valued perspective to education in our state. And there are other populations like that, while they're small in number, have significant contributions both as educators and as families.
Very good. Thank you. I like that. Absolutely.
Hi, this is Laura Evans again, USD 252. I think the next commissioner definitely needs to be approachable and definitely visible out in the communities, and then also humble and reflective and willing to learn from educators, families with that lived experience.
All right. Very good. Yeah. Someone you can talk to and someone that is seen out there and is willing to listen. Yes. All right. Very good. Yes. Thank you. What else do we want in this person?
I would also say, this is Trina from KCSL, someone who's not afraid to have some bold thinking
Okay.
and bold ideas, because I think we're in a time right now where we need some big, bold thinking to move us forward, and to, with the funding issues and everything, this person's going to have so much to take on. I think bold thinking will help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Karen, your hand's up.
Hi, this is Karen McCrory, Mitchell County Partnership for Children. I think a good quality that I would look for would be somebody who their educator heart sees education as birth through beyond graduation.
Mhm. Birth beyond graduation. I like the term educator heart. Yes, absolutely. And I would hope that anybody who applies for that would have an educator heart, realize the value of education and love it and want to support it. Absolutely.
I
I
think
think
a
educators
good,
heart, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, Karen. I'll let you finish.
I think from my perspective, an educator's heart describes somebody who has been able in that position to grow beyond under that. They begin with that understanding that how we create our classroom environment and then the support we provide our students allows them to reach their highest potential. Then when you're looking for a superintendent, you're looking for somebody who's moved on to how do I create my buildings and how do I support my staff? And so then as we expand that into our commissioner, it's going to be somebody who looks at how do we build our systems and how do we support all of our people connected to education.
Excellent. Excellent. I like
Now
that.
this is Melissa, and I'm gonna tag on to Karen's comment. And I mean, it sounds very simple, but also engages students. Okay, we've said families, but I haven't really, somebody who chats and engages students is important because you have to hear their voice because they're the benefactors of the education. And I just don't, coming from a mom of somebody who recently had a graduate from high school a few years ago, and just think our students really are such a beacon, and being able to engage them to help be bold, as Trina said, is important voice and not overlooked.
Very good. 2 days ago, we were able to engage students from across the state in a luncheon, and they were given the same group of questions and asked to tell us what they thought was most important in their education system and what would be beneficial to them. And the students have a lot to say. They truly do. So thank you. Tammy, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Tammy Benham, those library folks again. And I will continue to advocate for libraries. I've had some pretty alarming discussions with superintendents throughout the state who tell me they don't like to read. And I would love to have a commissioner who advocates for reading, the love of reading, the love of the written word, where it's hard to encourage children to learn and to read and to use that knowledge for critical thinking whenever you don't value it yourself.
Very good. I like that. Yeah. I saw a meme a while back, and my kids grew up with the booklet readings where you would read to get a free mini pizza. And this meme's like, it's obvious you didn't read 100 books to get a mini pizza, and it shows. So reading is absolutely critical. Yes, thank you. Okay, any other qualifications?
Okay, I'm going to throw one more out there. This is
Okay.
Trina. I have to say, a person who values partnerships with other entities that are experts. We come from the prevention of child abuse lens, and we want to partner with anybody and everybody to work on that around our state. So somebody that wants to partner and engage people to support their schools and as best we can.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Okay. Anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share? Could be in any of those areas we talked about or something else that we didn't speak about. Okay. I'm going to put my email in the chat box.
I'm just going to chime in one more time, and
Okay.
I didn't get this priority in there, but
No
especially
problem.
when we're considering and looking at literacy as one of our biggest challenges, we have to get representation for school librarians at the state.
Mhm. Okay. That's valid. Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, libraries aren't like they used to be 30 years ago. They're just a tremendous wealth of information. I presently serve on our Topeka Shawnee County Foundation Board and just absolutely love the library.
It's a beautiful space.
It is. It is. So our last point is any potential candidates that you believe that we should contact that may be a good fit. If there's someone you'd like to share with me now, that's fine. But also I posted my email, and for those listening, Frank Henderson at hyasearch.com. Or if there's somebody you think that we should contact that may be a perfect candidate for commissioner, shoot me an email and let me know.
And we will include that in our notes too, Frank.
Perfect.
And we post our notes. So anybody who's on our live stream who might have a potential candidate they would like to share, that'll be in our notes. So please feel free to reach out to Frank.
Okay, anything else before I sign off?
I think on behalf of the panel, I just appreciate you joining us and having us be a part of this conversation, because I think it's very much alludes that we are invested as a panel in the early childhood sector and in Kansas in general.
Absolutely. Now, this report will be made public, and it'll probably be about 2 weeks, and it'll be up on the State Board, Kansas State Department of Education website, and you'll be able to see the report. So again, I thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you for your valuable comments. And most of all, thank you for what you do each and every day for kids in Kansas. You're on a mission and you're doing great work. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, as we continue to move forward on our agenda today, we are only like 4 minutes behind, so I'm pretty proud of us. We are now going to talk about kindergarten readiness, and which really could not have been teed up any better than the conversation we had with the commissioner search. And I am going to turn over this section to Kim Kennedy, Natalie McLean, and Heather Schrottberger, who two are panel members. And Heather is a previous panel member, and let them engage you guys in the discussion that they have with a new tool that they wanted to share. So I'm going to turn it over to those three lovely ladies.
Good morning. I'm Kim Kennedy. I'm the Head Start Collaboration Director with the Department for Children and Families. And we will start today with sharing a little bit of information about our topics for discussion. We will first talk about the history of the collaborative efforts that have been made to strengthen kindergarten entry supports for young children and their families, the benefits of positive kindergarten transition experiences, and then we'll share some resources and strategies. Next slide, please. So I have a lot of information here for one slide, so bear with me. There's a lot to pack in here. This work began in December of 2019, so I will try to condense this as much as possible to give you just kind of an overview of the history. So as I mentioned, these collaborative efforts began in 2019 for the planning of a statewide virtual kindergarten readiness summit. The summit was held in November of 2020. State agencies and organizations partnering in the work included Head Start Association, Department for Children and Families, Department of Health and Environment, the Children's Cabinet and Trust, as well as the University of Kansas Center for Public Partnership and Research. They helped to facilitate all of the breakout sessions and the virtual meetings when they took place. The purpose of the summit was to expand and support the implementation of early care, Head Start, and public school collaboration work throughout the state by inviting teams to develop a community plan for kindergarten transition. And so these teams consisted of representation from Head Start, community childcare programs, school personnel, school district personnel, as well as representation from families. There was a total of 15 community teams that participated in the summit. These community plans were developed to help sustain and improve gains children made in early childhood settings through building strong, effective relationships between Head Start and other early care and education programs in receiving schools. So next slide, please. On the next slide, you will see the goals of the summit as well. Oh, I guess not. I got ahead of myself. You could go back a slide. My apologies. The goals of the summit were to identify examples of effective kindergarten readiness practices, including strategies to support smooth transitions to kindergarten, expand and enhance relationships between early childhood programs and school districts to support kindergarten readiness, provide tools, supports, and information to strengthen kindergarten readiness. The summit offered virtual working sessions held by the community teams where they worked on their community plan in a facilitated process. And then following the summit, there was ongoing facilitation provided to support the continued work of these teams. And then in addition to that, Head Start Association hosted monthly calls to provide these teams with opportunities just to share successes, ideas, discuss challenges, and simply to bounce ideas off of each other during those calls. And so now that concludes a brief bit of the history, and I will turn it over to Natalie to talk about the research for the benefits of kindergarten transition.
Good morning. It's Natalie McLean again from KSDE. So there is research behind meaningful transitions into kindergarten and why that's so important. There's research that says kindergarten teachers report almost 50% of children have difficulty adjusting to kindergarten. I know we're used to seeing, for those of us who get to see kindergarten on the first day, there's usually some tears involved, right? Whether it be the kiddos or the families. Many communities do not have a transition to kindergarten plan, and those that do often focus on low intensity, more superficial activities. Those might include things like just like a kindergarten roundup day, or just filling out some quick paperwork. Something just kind of superficial, saying, yep, you're going to kindergarten, give me your paperwork, and then we'll see you on the first day of school. The more transition activities pre-kindergarten teachers implement, the better prepared children are at the beginning of kindergarten. That's probably not a huge shocker to anyone. Research also shares that the more transition activities kindergarten teachers implement, the higher student achievement by the end of kindergarten. And transition benefits are the strongest for children in low and middle income families. So I don't think any of these are really like earth-shattering revelations, but they all add up. Do any of these surprise any of you? Probably not. Let's go to our next slide. So we have research that says focusing on transition to kindergarten improves student outcomes. The following is from a study that was done by Schulting, Malone, and Dodge. Pardon my pronunciation there. It says using a large nationally representative sample, we found that kindergarten transition policies do indeed have a modest positive effect on students' academic achievement and on parent-initiated school involvement during their kindergarten year. This finding provides the strongest empirical support to date for school policies designed to facilitate the transition to kindergarten. So when they did this research, some examples of the transition practices they focused on included things like information about kindergarten program being phoned or sent home to parents. So that's probably one of those low intensity activities, right? Preschoolers spending time in kindergarten classrooms, school days being shortened at the beginning of the school year, things like parents and children visiting kindergarten prior to the start of the school year, teachers visiting students' homes at the beginning of the school year, parents attending an orientation session prior to the school year, and others. Next slide, please. So I shared some kind of national research, but we also have our Kansas information to share with you too. Benefits of planning for kindergarten transitions positively affect not just our children and families, but also the schools, communities, and early learning programs that they're coming from. Here's a few of the benefits that we listed in our MOU toolkit that was developed by this very early childhood recommendations panel back in April of 2021. So as we look at these, think about, are they positively affecting children and families, or do you think they're also affecting our schools, community, and early learning programs? So we have things like reduces stress at the beginning of the year, yields positive long-term outcomes for children, encourages clear expectations for kindergarten readiness. That's something that the whole community can benefit from, right? Supports children who are dual language learners, supports children with special needs and IEP accessibility, promotes consistent services for children. It encourages family engagement and leadership. It encourages shared teaching strategies. It strengthens positive relationships and engagement. And we also found that it encourages community-driven planning. So notice how most of these benefit more than just the child and the parent, but also those schools, communities, and the early learning programs in that community. Next slide, please. So speaking of our Kansas Kindergarten Transitions Toolkit that was developed by the panel, it is still available. We've included this resource in the new resource that Heather will be talking about here shortly. You are able to access it both through the resource that we're about to talk about, but also it's still available on the Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund website under their resources tab. It's towards the bottom of the page and it's called the Kindergarten Readiness Toolkit. The name of that resource has changed a little bit over the years. You might find some documents that say MOU toolkit. It includes a one-pager that you can share with community partners to explain those benefits that we mentioned on the previous slide. And it's really nice because it points out kind of who it's benefiting, be it the child, the family, the school, the community, the pre-K or the early childhood programming that they came from. It also has a template. It has an MOU work plan template that your community can use to plan out how you want to approach transitions to kindergarten in your community. The toolkit also includes an MOU template that you can use to put your community's transition plan on paper, as well as examples of milestones, data sharing activities, and potential partners for your community's kindergarten transitions MOU that you could think about. Kim and I were both a part of developing this tool, and I know we have some others on here. I see Amy's here. If you were a part of helping develop this tool, just give us a quick wave. I think a lot of us have probably aged out of the panel, but there was a great effort to put that together. Is anyone currently using or accessing or familiar with this Kindergarten Transitions Toolkit? Awesome. I would encourage you to check it out, dig in there and see what kind of things you can learn from it and maybe instill in your community. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather now, and she's going to walk us through our new resource.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Heather Schrottberger with the Kansas Head Start Association. Thanks to Natalie and Kim for that background and that context. I'm excited to share with you here in just a minute a resource that we have available for early childhood providers and their community and their elementary school partners. From the great work and sharing of the kindergarten transition learning community teams that Kim mentioned, we knew there were many kindergarten transition resources as well as Kansas-specific highlights that we wanted to be able to share and make easily accessible for others. We've organized many of these on a resource board that I'm going to walk us through here in just a second. And this is currently accessed via the Kansas Head Start Association website. That QR code should take you there as well. Before we move into the show and tell of this resource, I do want to emphasize that we intend for this to grow over time with additional resources and with additional examples shared as to how local communities are working together to support children and families as they enter kindergarten. So please know that we realize that this in no means fully captures all the great work that many of you may already be doing in your communities around kindergarten transition. Okay, I'm going to pull the Padlet board up. I think, okay, hold on. Okay, that should be showing now. Someone nod if it is showing for everyone. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to provide a quick orientation to what is available on this board. First, at the top, you'll see here contact information if you have information and want to share any content. The first section is professional development, and this is also an area that we hope might grow over time. But we were able to engage Ellen Drolette, who some of you may be familiar with, to provide this recorded session on play and the development of the whole child. This video runs about 50 minutes long and can be a resource for you and your staff or your partners. The next section here includes links to 3 lists of books for children and families that pertain to going to kindergarten. So if you access any of those links there, you'll receive a list of titles that you could utilize. We then have a section that we've called Showcase Initiatives. This is sharing of artifacts from many of the Kansas learning community teams. This is especially an area where we hope to add additional content, and we're going to come back here and look at one of these videos in just a moment after I finish walking through the board. We then have a placeholder that we've called Learning from Others. This is going to be an area where we will add strategies and resources from local partners. So if you'd be interested in being featured here, you just have to reach out and let one of us know. There's a section for Kansas-specific resources, including a link to that toolkit that Natalie just referenced, the Kansas Early Learning Standards, and then other KSDE kindergarten readiness resources. Finally, we have a section on this board with national resources. You can see if you scroll right, there's quite a few things available here. This includes, try not to make you all dizzy while I'm scrolling. This includes a couple of Head Start resources like a kindergarten transition activity calendar, a really great video that we all like from Head Start called Building Bridges, which highlights practical strategies that educators can implement during the transition process. And then a variety of planning resources and guidance documents from national organizations and national technical assistance providers. We hope that you'll spend some time with this board looking at the resources that are available and checking them out. Okay, let's go back to the artifacts section. We have several great examples here from communities who did some work as part of that kindergarten transition learning community. And we wanted to show one of them to you today, which is this video from the Cali County community team. So I think that video is going to be ready to share. And then after that, we're going to open this up for some discussion with you all.
And just bear with us for a moment while we get all of that ready.
Various work of play supporting the whole child. My name is Ellen Trolette. I have been in the field for over 3 decades.
I don't think that's the right video. Yeah.
Heather, can you drop the link into our chat?
Just a second.
And then we will pull that over. And while Heather's doing that, you know, when I first looked at the Padlet and it was shared by this team, one of the things that first, so I have Desiree on here, and I always think about every foothold that we have that touches a child and a family before they get ready for kindergarten, and think about the community with Tammy and all of these resources. So you know, it's these resources would be valuable to, you know, for families to have an idea of benchmarks and what they can do, and to really engage their anybody who is the caregiver of children, whether that's a family child care home, a child care center, and really that readiness starts, you know, again, that early literacy, just reading to an infant, and those socialization skills. So I am always impressed with the Padlet and the resources, and the many avenues that a child will encounter as they prepare for that eventual first day of kindergarten, and what that looks like. And my mom heart really opens up thinking about having lunch with a 5th grader and realizing and seeing those kindergartners on that first day, and they're carrying that big their tray, and they're so tiny still, and that transition into just that life skill of being able to go through a line, and you get your food, and your mom doesn't have it there ready for you, and or you're a parent, I shouldn't say a mom, that's just my lens. So it's just really just I appreciate all of the work that's gone into this and all of the community effort, and that one size doesn't fit all for children. Okay, and I think, is this the one now, or team?
This is it, yes.
Okay, all right, well, we will go ahead and get that ready.
Welcome to kindergarten.
Welcome to kindergarten. Welcome to kindergarten.
Kindergartners learn to write stories about the pictures they draw. Kindergartners learn to read stories by using pictures and words. How is kindergarten like pre-K?
We get to draw, coloring. On our stations, we play games.
In kindergarten, students learn math skills and how to explain their thinking. How is kindergarten different than pre-K?
Pre-K don't get to go to art, but kindergarten can. We get to play in kitchen, and when we also get to go to STEM.
Kindergartners go to many special classes with different teachers. What What would you tell someone who is nervous about kindergarten?
They're gonna have fun. You can just be brave. It's just gonna be fun. It's okay. You can go. Because school with me if you want to. You'll have fun too.
You are going to have so much fun in kindergarten. Kindergartners eat lunch at school. And kindergartners go to recess. How do you make and keep friends in kindergarten?
I'd be nice to them.
In kindergarten, you'll make a lot of new friends. What do you like about kindergarten?
The teacher's pretty. Recess and lunch. I like tornado drills. We learn how to write, and we learn how to read, and we learn how to do math.
Kindergartners go to school all day and have a full but fun day of learning.
Play with toys. We go to music and listen to songs. And we learn about everything, shapes, and we learn about ABCs, and we learn about sounding out words. That's it.
We are your USD 470 kindergarten teachers, and we are ready for you.
See you next year.
See you next year.
Okay, so that's just one example of a way that a community came together and created that resource for the children and families that they were serving. So we have a couple of discussion questions for you, which I think are on the next slide. Just wanted to open it up to hear from you all. How are partners in your community working together to support children and families as they enter kindergarten? And do you have any other examples to share and highlight on this resource board? So we'd love to hear if you have responses to those questions now, but we also hope that you'll continue to think about that and reach out with additional information over time. So I'll stop there and open up to whether anybody has any feedback on either of those questions.
Abdul Yahya with Open Minds. I sympathize with the concept of the kindergarten readiness approach. It's more so for the parents, which is actually, important for all the documents and needed. But I was wondering if like a partnership with even a kindergarten that was close to a early ed center, there could be like a shadow day, and not like the whole day, but a field trip with that we can go just for an hour or that's 30 minutes or so, right? Kids kindergarten attention span, but just letting them see, this big building or a different building, introducing. I really think that something like that, a partnership, could be done. And it doesn't actually have to even be done structurally. I mean, centers can reach out to school districts, but it just has to be a valuable relationship.
Yeah, I love that idea. And we know that time spent is really important. That's actually one of the strategies that comes up in some of the resources shared on the resource board, but it would also be really nice to highlight because I know that's happening in communities across Kansas, and being able to highlight how some of those partners come together to put those plans in place, and then what does that day look like, et cetera, would be a really nice addition to this board.
I'm Shira Bedell from Gardner Edgerton School District. Sorry. We do host, coming up in a couple of months, we'll host parents and students, incoming kindergartners, where we do kind of a parent meeting And then all of the students that are incoming to kindergarten get a chance to visit the classrooms and kind of go through the first part of the day. And so we do that we do that this year for our incoming kindergartners. And then this summer, we'll offer a kindergarten camp that parents can bring their kids into for a little bit longer time where parents aren't in the building usually that day. And so that is another introduction to kindergarten. I know some of our other surrounding districts do those events as well.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. And also, I noted your name because we'd love to share some of that information as an example for other communities.
Laura, you have your hand up.
Oh, you're muted.
Laura Evans, 252 Southern Lyon County. I am the coordinator in a smaller school district, so we are fortunate to have the opportunity to have our preschools within our elementary school. So we do have that partnership in place with the kindergarten teachers. Every spring, our preschool teachers visit the kindergarten classroom to do observations, and then vice versa. The kindergarten teachers come to preschool to do that as well. In the spring, they'll also have transition meetings, just kind of getting ready for those kindergartners that will be coming in the fall. And then we also plan different activities. We do have Roundup every March to welcome new preschool students, and then those 4-year-olds that'll be going to kindergarten go visit the kindergarten classrooms when we do Roundup in March. And then later in the spring, they go and visit during time in the kindergarten classroom and sit down at the tables with the current kindergartners that are there. And then they get to experience eating in the cafeteria and some different experiences with the kindergartners that are currently there. So that's been very good for Southern Lyon County. We have tried a Jumpstart Day with our new kindergartners, but found that it wasn't quite as helpful because a lot of these kids have been in the school district since they were babies, since we have childcare within our elementary schools too. So it was kind of overkill, but the other things that we have embedded just in our normal transition from preschool to kindergarten have been very helpful.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing all that.
Oh, sorry, Heather.
No,
I think the takeaway, Laura, is that you have to meet your own unique needs, right? That's the beauty of the Padlet. It's not a one-stop shop. It's able to highlight, and I don't think there's ever overkill. It's just that that's your community and this is what works best because they're already exposed. So I love that because it just
thank you for
highlights
saying that, Melissa, on the overkill
everything
part.
is just different and unique. And then Heather, Tammy has Desiree first and then Tammy next.
Desiree Straight. So if I remember correctly, a few years ago when this came out, there are some printable brochures about kindergarten readiness that can be handed to parents. Is that still available, Heather?
I see Natalie shaking her head. I'm going to let her answer that.
Okay. Natalie.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
Desiree. And you'll find those on the KPERC, or you can find them on the KSDE website. Those are KPERC houses those, but it's a kindergarten in Kansas, and those are also going to be on the Padlet too. I think it's just called Kindergarten in Kansas, but it gives parents a really nice checklist of things like these are things I might want to get ready. I was looking to see. This might be the old one. But anyways, it's a nice resource to give to families of what to expect. Is this it?
Yes. So I just wanted to say that you guys did a really good job at providing that and getting that information out. And I can't remember, where I picked it up, and I brought home a huge stack. And so as a family childcare provider, I do hand those out to my families. So that is one positive, how I try to help support my families. But I know that we're talking about how our community works together. And as I think about my community, as I think about other family childcare providers that I communicate with, I think there's a gap. Family childcare providers aren't within the school district, and so we're not being included in this kindergarten readiness activities. I know that I have to keep a really close ear on social media to catch up with what is going on, to share with families so that my kids aren't left out in those possibilities that those kids could be having. And I know that our community has the preschool in the school building. And so then I know that in the spring they have a day where they get to go and shadow the kindergartners, but not all children go to preschool. I have done a really good job in my program, and so I've had some kids who've just stayed with me, and I've been able to get them prepared just as well. And so those kids missed out on that transition opportunities until the enrollment came around. So I don't know. I don't know how we can support that. And just putting it out there as we are discussing this, I think these are some great activities that kids already in the system get, but there's a lot of kids in family childcare, and not everybody goes to a public preschool.
Yes. So we have included resources in the Padlet for childcare providers, but I also want to stress that even if they're not going to childcare, we need to be reaching out to just families who are staying home with family to help them transition as well. So it's easy for me to say, childcare providers, reach out to your school districts to get more information about kindergarten transition, but our families we need to know that that's okay to do too. And schools need to be sure that they are projecting that out to everyone. Our libraries are a great place to be advertising, yes, that
And health
transition as
departments.
well. Health departments, absolutely. I've seen one school district talked about putting it, everybody goes to the Dollar General, right? In your small towns, they have on the back of their Dollar General when kindergarten roundup's coming up, so that everybody who's shopping knows that that's coming up. So wherever your place is in town that everyone's going, find some way to sneak that in, that kindergarten's coming, and things that you can be doing to get ready for that. But those things are included on the Padlet. And if you are a childcare and have some ideas on how you are working with your community that we could add to the Padlet, we would love that information as well.
I think one of the things that I want to make sure gets captured that Desiree shared, it's not just about access to the Padlet, it's about making sure that she has the tools she needs as a home provider if the family does not go to anything outside, that she is doing what she needs to help support the family to make sure children have certain benchmarks. And part of that conversation that the family child care is an extension of the district. And, even though they don't fall under the district umbrella, that anybody serving children are an extension. And I think that was, I just, we focused back to the Padlet, and I think that's an important piece to note, and not to solve today, but really something that the system could do better at. And I appreciate Desiree bringing that. And then Tammy, and then Tabitha, and then we will transition to our next agenda item.
No, thank you, Desiree, for the shout out. I just want to make sure that people don't miss the opportunity. Many public libraries have a day where they have a story time around transition, and have a book display that families can check out books. I noticed that this resource, the Kindergarten in Kansas resource, in the resource section has books. This is 10 years old, and I can tell you that every year new books come out about kindergarten, going to kindergarten, transition to kindergarten, being in kindergarten, on and on and on. I'm happy to work with anyone who wants to put together or wants to share a list of books regarding kindergarten. I'd be happy to work on that and hand it out so that it's more current, because as books age, they're more and more difficult to find. Libraries weed them out. So this resource list, I didn't take the time to look up all of them, but they may not be available locally. So that might be something to consider when you're putting something like this out. And I think that there's enough websites here, if we share it among the partners just in this meeting alone, there could be a really nice collection of organizations that are sharing the same information for families to help get their child ready for kindergarten, and might be really easy to access for all kinds of daycare providers, home center, etc., so that children, and you're right, Desiree, there are a lot of children that are outside the system that we see a lot in public libraries, that are never seen until they go to kindergarten, or because we don't have mandated kindergarten first grade. So yeah, it's really something to consider. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say also, we love our public library. It's a great resource for families, a really neutral place that families already really love to go. Just incredible early childhood and beyond partnerships there. But I also just wanted to mention, Natalie, to you guys, like the ASQ. I didn't see any resources on the Padlet from there, but that might be a good thing to plug, that a lot of schools at their kindergarten roundup are having people do the ASQ, so that way they have one ready to go for just knowing kids coming into kindergarten and where they are at developmentally. So that would be a practice that I would encourage around the community, and it's something that where I have lived, we've always really tried to do as a part of the transition process, is update that ASQ.
Thank you, Tabitha. And I'm going to let Heather and Kim and Natalie, if you have last thoughts that you'd like to share.
Well, I just wanted to mention that I really appreciate all the discussion. This was one of the reasons that we wanted to share this out and open this conversation back up with the panel, because there's so much great work going on. There's also gaps that we need to identify and work together to be able to support providers and children and families in their communities. So our contact information is there. We hope that one, the resources on the board will continue to grow, and that two, this will spark new and maybe revived conversations about how to support local community teams that are early childhood providers, elementary school partners, family childcare home families, and then other community partners like libraries and etc. So thanks so much for having us today, and we look forward to hearing more.
Well, I think we will welcome you back as you continue to build your Padlet out, and we hear more. Honestly, your video reminded me, very simple words of a young gentleman saying, be brave, right? He was like, be brave. I mean, we just need to step outside of our comfort zone and be brave on any given day. So loved your resources. Okay, if we can transition to our next agenda item, and we're going to talk about the Governance Summit. The Governance Summit is next month. The Governance Summit, February 20th. So really want you guys to mark your calendars and be a part of that conversation. What we're really focused in on is our early childhood governance structure, which we have shared multiple times with the panel. Really looking at our All In for Kansas Kids leadership team, to the panel, to the systems improvement team, to the Maternal and Child Health Council, to the state ICC, anything that lives in our current structure have been invited. But we have invited them with a very intentional purpose, not to just say, hey, this is when we meet, quarterly, and this is what we do, but really wanting to have a discussion of how the panel can support their work. Because if you look at the early the governance structure where the panel sits, and that reciprocal, you know, track that is very well laid out in that visual. We should be supporting the work of the rest of the early childhood governance, and we should be a group, just as Natalie, Kim, and Heather reached out to, of knocking on the panel's door to say, I want to share this resource with you. I want to I want feedback. The same with the commissioner search. So we really want to make sure that we just aren't learning, but what can we do to support them? But because the panel intimately is part of that governance structure, we have some homework too. So able to answer through our panel purposes, how does your work, the panel, support the Kansas early childhood system? Because that's embedded into our panel purpose. And cross collaboration is all of you, right? Because you all represent different sectors of the state. There's the executive order that calls out certain agencies and having representation, but then it really looks at the ecosystem and very mindful of the panel membership. And that's why there's an application process to make sure that we are reaching out to every sector that supports the ecosystem. But what we are really needing is where do we see our work? Like, where do we see the panel? If you go back to the mission of the panel that I very much go over every single time we get on screen together, and the panel purpose and norms document, where do we see the panel, and what do we see the impact of our work in 10 years in Kansas? So I floated that out to you in December, and I did start our meeting by saying that felt like a lifetime ago. So that's why we're revisiting it, and I shared it in our email on Monday with our agenda, and really wanted to challenge you guys of how you see that. So we could do that as a big panel, or we can make a collage. And based off of your work groups, you guys can meet today and work on your headline for Kansas based off of the work that you're doing very intimately and moving forward recommendations in your work groups. The governance summit is about you and for you as a panel, and where you identify your headline, I really want it to give you space to be creative and have that, be for, intimately. And you might be doing this in other groups because many of you serve on different committees within the early childhood structure in Kansas. So I'm going to quit talking and really giving you two options to think about. We can do it now as a big group, or an opportunity to do that in your work groups and create a collage of where you see the work in 10 years. So I'm going to leave it up to the group and see if anybody would like to add to this discussion. And I can sit in silence for a really long time. It does not make me uncomfortable. So, or I can call on anybody too. And so, Abdul, what do you, I see you first, not, I think my thing does alphabetically. So Abdul, what are your thoughts about as we create our content for the governance summit?
I think, and I actually attended the government summit last year, I believe. And I think that we should really focus on how we are utilizing the different organizations. So here in where I'm at in Olathe, we really rely on infant toddler services. They're just really a good cross ecosystem partner with us because we're seeing individuals, our children at a younger and younger age with needs that our staff aren't specialized in. And so like the ASQs and different things like that, having somebody who has a background in that really helps support our staff, because the last thing we want is staff burnout, but also frustration on both parts, the student and the teacher, because that's just counterproductive to what we're doing. It always starts with the care, and I know our staff have that, but frustration can kind of cloud that relationship.
So you gave me a great premise to really frame the governance summit, is understanding how we as a panel share the work of those committees within the structure, and making sure that the utilization is across the system, and making sure that we share that work. We don't have to own the work, but it's critical to know the work exists and to share it. So really appreciate that framing. And that's almost like a headline for the next 10 years. Like where do we want the system to evolve? How do we want to, I feel like I'm using a bunch of buzz terms, but break down silos, right? That is what we're transitioning with the formation of the Office of Early Childhood. If anybody has been a part of any of those presentations, and that's exactly what the governor's office is sharing at this time. So love that. But do we see that as working on our headline for where we see Kansas as a panel? Or again, do you want to do that separately as work groups? And Bethany, I see you next. So curious, as someone who's been a panel member, of where you would like to take this activity, because this is about you guys. It's not about me.
I was sitting here while Abdul was talking, trying to rack my brain, thinking, what if she calls on me next? So what came up in my mind was links to quality. So I work with DCF, and we contract with Child Care Aware of Kansas, and they run our state quality recognition improvement system. And an example of cross collaboration with that, I was just thinking about how Child Care Aware has been doing like a crosswalk with our quality indicators, which we call links, in between those and the core competencies. And so a program who is working to improve their quality through links to quality is generally also at the same time and working on areas that fall in line with the core competencies. And we've intentionally designed the links to do that, but now we're making more of an effort to provide some education on that, so that programs are aware of where they line up and how those fall and complement each other. So as they're working on their IPD, and if they're involved with links to quality, they can do both things at the same time. So that's just an example of cross collaboration that came up in my mind. I think, any time that resources are developed, it's always difficult to get the word out, to share it in such a way that people become aware. And so that's a barrier from time to time. So, yeah, that's what came up for me.
I like that visual, Bethany. And this is what I'm going to propose, and then we can, and maybe I'm still in your thunder, Tammy and Amy, and then we'll let you guys speak. I would propose that we have a very time-sensitive task force within the panel to do our headline and answer some of these questions. and sit on another board, and that's what we did for an activity that is very time sensitive. So I'm going to ask for volunteers to put your name in the chat, and then we will get a side meeting and trust the process with the rest of the panel that we'll share these questions that in our headline, that you trust your panel members to be able to answer these questions, share the headline, and work on our slide for the governance summit. And then we'll share out and have like a virtual roll call and vote, and some tweaking. But if I can get a minimum of maybe 5 volunteers, and drop your name in the chat, we can find a time outside of the panel to work together. And I think that gave me some great ideas of how we want to structure the governance summit moving forward. Amy, I see. Amy, do you still have your hand up? I'm looking. Are you comfortable with the next steps? I think everybody's comfortable with the next steps if I don't see any hands up, but I'm really excited about the summit and want it to be something meaningful for those joining and for our panel. Bree, if we can move to the next slide. Okay, work group discussion. I spent some time over this last week looking at your notes, and I appreciate everybody who continues to add notes to your specific work groups, reminding everybody that we have 4 work groups this season of the panel. And those work groups include the ecosystem, family-friendly workplaces, targeted journey, and mental health supports. My role to look at the notes is to make sure that I'm highlighting things that you guys are bringing forward. I'm making sure that you are getting your questions answered. And I saw in one work group, as you'll see here in a moment, somebody said, we need to get Melissa to join, and I'm going to join your work group today. So I do read your notes. And so if we can move forward to the next slide, Bree. So a really quick overview. Ecosystem needs a co-chair. So anybody, as you guys meet today, anybody to support Abdul, as Christy Smith, as we announced at our last panel meeting, will continue on the panel, but she has been named the acting director of the Office of Early Childhood while she works on her confirmation process. And she's very busy. I think I've seen her on 2 legislative committee presentations yesterday on the Senate Means and Ways. So she is getting acclimated and pretty quickly into state government and doing all of the work that she needs to do representing the Office of Early Childhood. So that left a vacancy as she was working as a co-chair with Abdul. So when you meet today, really would love for somebody to step up and help support Abdul in that manner. And then the ecosystem continues to narrow and prioritize identified ideas. They're still looking at the ASQ, the tax credit, any of our monitoring dashboard, which we will hear about again here in a few minutes. Family-friendly workplaces, they still need to brainstorm about how to land the plane. Love that visual as they're working through their work, and I will join their group today. Targeted Journey, they are bringing in a guest speaker today. Heather Campbell with KSDE will be joining the group. They're working on a flyer, which I saw some of that visual, and then we'll eventually love to see where the panel sits on that to get input on some of that, the work that they're doing. And mental health, they have so much to work through, and so many ideas, because it's, when you tackle mental health, there's so many aspects to that. Of, you can focus on the workforce, we can focus on the children and the families, and they're still, I appreciate them still continuously narrowing down the topic in it, and really trying to be mindful of what exists in our system. So they're not reinventing the wheel, that they're really being mindful of what is out there, and the best use of their time and resources. So that's a very quick snippet of the work groups. And again, really appreciate being able to review your notes, and when I can support you and connect you to resources as warranted. So Bree, if we can move to the next slide. Okay, we are going to have system updates, and we're going to have Heather with the Kansas Association of Head Start join us again, Megan Cluth, and Sarah Gardner. I was able to participate in the Kansas Head Start Association winter meeting yesterday, and asked Heather if she could give a brief overview. So Heather, if you want to start us off in our system updates. Oh, wait, first, I apologize. Put in this slide this morning. I wanted to let you guys be aware of statewide opportunities. The CAME conference. So when we were talking about mental health, wanted to really highlight their conference, and I just love their title. Resilience, building children's capacity to bend without breaking. I think that's a lesson for all of us, not just children. It will be on April 23rd and 24th in Wichita, and registration is currently open, and there's a link there for that. And really hope to see everybody at that conference. The Innovation Center, which is housed actually here in Hayes, is looking at offering a home-based child care provider recruitment pilot. And this pilot project will recruit 15 new home-based child care providers in Northwest Kansas. And they're really trying to do something innovative with this project, is looking at offering right out of the gate a mentorship. That first year is very critical to the relationship with families, and everything that comes into. And the Innovation Center also focuses really on that business aspect. So supporting childcare providers, not just how to run a business, but then that support of a mentor. There's going to be an informational webinar on January 29th, which is Kansas Day. It's a little FYI. So if you're celebrating Kansas Day and also want to join the webinar, I think that's a great way to support Kansas Day. And you have to live in one of these counties. It's very specific to the counties that are listed on this slide. So wanted to spread the word on two of those statewide opportunities. And now I will pass it to Heather.
Thanks, Melissa. Well, again, I'm Heather Schroberger with the Kansas Head Start Association, and I appreciate the opportunity to share out some information from our state meeting yesterday and just to highlight some information about Head Start across Kansas. First, the Kansas Head Start Association provides support, leadership, and advocacy on behalf of the 25 federally funded Head Start grantees in Kansas. We were together virtually yesterday morning for our winter state meeting. As you heard, we started our day with a really lovely welcome message from Tabitha. We shared out our Kansas Head Start Association annual report to the Head Start community. One of the things that's highlighted in that annual report is the reach and impact of Head Start programs in Kansas. When we say Head Start, we're referring to both Head Start preschool services, and we're also referring to early Head Start services for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, which includes home visiting and child care program models. In the most recent federal fiscal year, programs in Kansas were funded to serve 6,200 children ages birth to 5 across 78 Kansas counties. And you may not realize this, but Kansas Head Start programs employ just over 2,500 members of the early childhood workforce across the state. During our time together, we also had several updates from state, regional, and national partners. Head Start services take place in licensed childcare settings and school district classrooms and through home visiting, connecting the Head Start community with many components of the broader early childhood system. We appreciated hearing from Zach Vincent and Christy Smith about the Office of Early Childhood. We heard from a few of our state agency partners, including some that are on the call today. And then we heard from our state and national advocacy partners. This included an update from the National Head Start Association about the fiscal year 26 federal funding and the many changes at the federal level that Head Start programs have been navigating. I'm always happy to visit about the Head Start budget in detail with anyone who is interested, but I'll just mention here that we anticipate flat funding for Head Start programs for the third year. We're also monitoring and responding as needed to potential changes to the Head Start program performance standards, which are the federal regulations that provide guidelines for programs, and to the impacts of reductions in the Federal Office of Head Start workforce. There's a few amazing directors and staff from Head Start programs who are part of this panel, and I know are on the call today. I just always like to mention to groups that if you would like to connect with your local Head Start program, or if you would like either myself or Kim Kennedy with the Head Start Collaboration Office to provide more information about Head Start programs, eligibility, or services, we're always happy to do so. Just please feel free to reach out at any time. But we had a great morning together yesterday, kicking off what is the 61st year of Head Start in our nation. And we'll just I know that the Head Start staff and programs across the state will keep doing what they do and continue their high quality services for young children and their families. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, Heather. We did drop in the Canva to link to the annual report. If that does not work for you, please know that we will update the slide and the content when the report gets published on the Head Start Association website. So it's a great report. It doesn't scroll up and down. You have to go left to right. So that's a trick. But it was a great read. And then I'm going to hand it over to Megan Cluth to give preschool development grant updates.
Good morning, everyone. Megan Cluth of the University of Kansas Center for Public Partnerships and Research. So we have a few updates on the preschool development grant. As a reminder, we're currently about a quarter of the way through our second year of that federal grant. And each of these items, or two of these items, excuse me, will link in our notes so that you can actually access the resource I'm going to talk about. So we have a rural family experiences gap analysis report was finalized late last year, and we wanted to make sure you had access to this. This is intended to be a complement to the All In for Kansas Kids needs assessment and just really trying to look at a more targeted gap analysis, hence the name. So looking at what's working really well for rural families, and I would say just rural communities in general, and where are there unique challenges that we need to be paying attention to as we're thinking about early childhood. So like I said, we'll link that report available. There's also it's a fairly lengthy read. If you want a shorter version, there's a nice couple page summary as well. And then this year we'll be working on a gap analysis specific to early childhood mental health. So I imagine we'll be coming back to share more with you about that in the next few months. I also wanted to share, we've talked a little bit about the child care zones work that KDHE has led through PDG. That is, it means at least 2 counties are coming together to address local child care needs. I know some people on this call are very intimately involved with the zones work in their community. We put a map together of that and have a summary. A lot of people have been wondering, well, what are people doing with those grants? So we've got a nice kind of overview of the key strategies that communities are implementing. So again, we'll make sure that you have access to all of that. If you're in any, if you work in or live in any of the counties that have that funding and are interested, I know they're often looking for partners and just want to make sure people are plugged into information, and particularly for our childcare professionals on the call, we really want to make sure you're aware of what's going on in your community because there's some exciting new resources that are being rolled out throughout the state. And then last on this slide, and I actually kind of feel like I'm speaking for a panel member with Mandy Waugh, but wanted to just share that we are partnering with Child Start, and they've done a lot of great work that Mandy's talked about here around how do we engage businesses and just employers in general and childcare and early childhood. And so they're going to, they are putting together a resource guide for employers that we'll make available later this year. And it's really, I mean, I think people who have had these conversations around how to engage with businesses, it can be a little overwhelming of trying to figure out where to start and what might be the right fit. And there can be kind of an information overwhelm feeling. And so the intent of this guide is to help kind of break it down and help employers of any kind, size and type see like what are all of the different ways that they could support childcare. It's not always writing a check, though that's certainly one pathway. And just kind of helping them understand like what would it mean to be ready to make a decision? What are kind of the characteristics of something that might be a good fit for one type of company versus another? So wanting to have something that's pretty flexible but can help employers make really well-informed decisions for what makes sense for them and their communities. So we will share more as that becomes available. Next slide, please. I also wanted to highlight, there's been a lot of really great momentum around early childhood mental health in the system over the past year. And I will say that is absolutely building on the foundation that many partners have laid for many more years than I've been involved in this work. And so I think PDG has just been added a little bit of momentum to that. I shared in the fall that we hosted an event in Topeka in October that brought together community behavioral health center staff from throughout the state, early childhood professionals across the workforce, just to talk about like how are we thinking about early childhood mental health, what's working well and what is not. And so one next step from that work is the CCBHCs are mandated now to serve early childhood. And so we want to make sure that those staff are really well equipped and understand early childhood and that we ensure that that's two-way communication so that the early childhood expertise can be shared with them. They don't necessarily know what they don't know. And so we want to really bridge that gap. And so I'm very excited to share that in February. We're going to start hosting a community of practice, and that will really be for the behavioral health center staff. For them to learn more about early childhood and come in and say, these are the types of trainings or kind of knowledge gaps we have. We want to make sure people have solid child development experience and just understanding what the ASQs are and all of the different resources that are available, how to plug into home visiting and other services in their area. So that's probably not something that this group would necessarily need to attend as to learn, but we might come asking for some of you just to come share. We want to get a sense from those attendees of like, what are the services and the organizations you need to learn more about to be able to feel like you really are as plugged in as possible into your local and state early childhood system. So we'll be sharing more information about that in the All In for Kansas Kids newsletter soon, but I'm super excited that this is coming to fruition. This has been talked about for a while, and appreciate your support if we come knocking asking for some resources to share. And then last but not least, we also want to make sure we have really strong public facing content around early childhood mental health. This is definitely something we'll be talking about with the mental health support work group, but want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. We are currently looking at the content on the allinforkansaskids.org site and really looking at building out more early childhood mental health content for professionals. And I say that in as like broad of a sense of the word as possible. Even beyond early childhood, we just really want to help normalize the idea that young children and their families have mental health needs and have unique mental health needs for that time of life. And so wanting to understand like what do people need to know to be able to serve the population well, to be able to support their own self-care. I know that's come up a lot in the mental health support work group. So we will be talking to that group, but just if you come across a resource or you think, wow, our staff would really benefit from XYZ type of content, please please feel free to send me an email. We're trying to just kind of gather. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's so many good national resources and state resources we can certainly link, but if there's content that needs to be developed, that's also an option. And then we're going to direct the family-facing content to the Help Me Grow website for Kansas. They already have a lot there, and it just feels like a more natural place. So trying to kind of differentiate professionals and families, but certainly there's a lot of overlap between those. So again, this is kind of an ongoing ask. There's not a hard timeline on this, but if you find something that you're like, this is really great, please just take the 30 seconds and drop a link to me or Melissa, and we will make sure to add that to our growing list. Okay, I think that's my last slide.
All right, thank you, Megan. And I am going to transition this over to Sarah Gardner, who's going to talk to us again about the dashboard.
Thanks, Melissa. Sarah Gardner with KU CPPR, and you can go to the next slide, actually. I am just here to let you know the dashboard is live and available to look at. So this slide just kind of articulates something I already shared with you all in December, a reminder about why we are doing this. What is the dashboard? So I won't read this to you, but I think the TLDR of this is we want to establish some shared measurement, some understanding of how our system collectively is achieving and advancing towards achieving the goals laid out in our strategic plan, so that it is a living, dynamic document and not something that collects dust on the shelf. So as I shared, we will be updating this dashboard on a quarterly basis. And so I think I might have one more slide, Bree. I'm actually going to, if I can share, Melissa, can I share my screen quickly? Okay, so I will do that here shortly. But again, just some details about the go live. We are going to update it quarterly. We have the all-in newsletter. We also have the all-in monthly webinar. So as we have key data to highlight, we'll be sending stuff out. So you know when the updates are going live and you don't have to track that. But that is the intent, to have it updated quarterly. Anybody at any time can share feedback, can share data, can say, hey, I want to have a conversation. I want to put some stuff on here. I just noted from the 45 minutes I popped into this call a little bit earlier about the work you all are doing to support kiddos in transitioning to kindergarten successfully, and those partnerships, the Head Start data, just the 4 bullet points Heather had on the slide. There's a lot of stuff that we need to continue adding to the dashboard to communicate the broad impact that we have. So I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly to show you how to get there. It's really easy. So you can go to allinforkansaskids.org. Hopefully that's a website you already have bookmarked to some extent. You're going to hover over the word about. There's a couple new pieces of content here. One is we actually have some details about the preschool development grant. That's kind of new. A lot of people have asked us, what did we write in the grant? And so we put the narrative there. You can click on that if you want to read more. If you click on strategic plan, it will take you to where you can actually get access to all of the details about the plan itself. And then if you click on dashboard, we put this as the page to go to so people have context for what this is. And we also might pull in interesting updates to this particular page. And then I shared the actual dashboard demo itself in your December meeting, but you can click on the dashboard link. Let's see if it did. Okay, great. So this is the dashboard, which you all got a little tour of on back in December. I know we all had holiday brain perhaps. So if you want a demo or want more information about the dashboard itself for you or your organization, please reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody one-on-one about the dashboard, but it is live and that's how you get there. So that's what I wanted to share. And thank you all for those of you who've shared data with us. Those of you who've reached out and expressed either concerns or bright spots or feedback, all of it helps us create something that you can use in your work and that you can use to help communicate the impact that the system has for children and for families. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, Sarah. And I appreciate that when you joined and you're starting to continue to build your bucket, like that's really what the dashboard is. It's building the Kansas bucket of all the great things that you guys are doing. Bree, if we can move to the next slide. Okay, I have one bright spot to share. I am loving this bright spot because It has, if you look at the dashboard, if you look at the strategic plan, this has been, you know, a goal for Kansas for quite some time. And the fact that we are celebrating Cape's first birthday is just a huge milestone. And it was January 13th. And I had it on my calendar like Cape's first birthday, and love the messaging that the Cape team is putting out themselves. And in just 1 year, we've had 13,000, I want to just round that up, close to 14,000 professionals who have registered within Cape. And so that is just the data and understanding the workforce through this endeavor is, you know, that in itself is a milestone. There have been 662 courses with 486 offerings. And the Cape staff is continuously onboarding training works and working on, you know, getting trainers vetted in the system and still having the outside process for training. So there's all this very rich, deep you know, processes that are going on. And I know I think Patty is still on. And just kudos, Casito is the umbrella agency that Cape lives under. And just wanted to give a shout out to the Cape staff and their capability of, you know, love that tagline, their capability and really the challenges that they have faced and overcome and continuing to do better for the system. Patty, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything that you want to say about Cape's first birthday?
Yeah, you know, it's been a journey for sure. Thinking about this as first birthdays, we're doing a little internal celebration here with, and you know, significant shout out to Haley Henick as the director of Cape and the work that she has put in and leading our team to, you know, to be where we're at now. But you know, this is something that it has definitely taken everyone, partners, everyone at the table in order for us to get where we're at now with Cape. And, you know, we're just very excited for where we're going. But I will say we are having a little internal birthday celebration and that we're going to have next week. And I'm really hopeful that we can get Haley to smash that first birthday cake and get some good pictures with that. So we'll see what that looks like. But it is like the perpetual infant, you know. Sometimes at the first birthday we're celebrating getting the walking, but we are so excited and really appreciate, you know, everyone's patience with getting this to where we're at, and we're hopeful to celebrate with everyone as we continue in the future and to make this more meaningful for everyone in our workforce.
Thank you, Patty, for indulging me for putting you on the spot. But I figured you were used to answering about Cape this week in particularly and where we have come. I did see Abdul had his hand raised and wanted to honor that and see what you wanted to share, Abdul.
Yes, Abdul with Open Minds. I actually wrote just a recognition to Patty and her staff on Cape. One of the reasons I got into early ed was just to elevate the status of how people view us, and just with the profiles of the teachers, they feel like they have something that they can show and be proud of. And then especially on the admin side, okay, you need those training hours. It's been really nice to be able to just enroll in any classes on Cape to get those so that we stay in compliance. So one, compliance, two, vibe in terms of how people feel, and then three, I mean, I love technology, but I like it when it's seamless. And so it's even though it's a 1-year-old, it hasn't been cumbersome. So we definitely appreciate that.
I just think I appreciate your warm words, Abdul, and we don't, you know, I felt like this was so appropriate given the the launch, of the dashboard. And CAPE is well recognized on the dashboard to highlight the work and achievements in Kansas. So the celebration and this bright spot just felt very fitting that they go together. And that's what we're going to end as a high note on our meeting today. Bree, if we can go to the next slide, just reminding you in February 3rd is the Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund actual board meeting. If you want to join, and if you don't have time in the space, but you want to listen to it later, that is always housed on the Children's Cabinet website. Our next meeting is going to be February 20th, which is the Governance Summit. And then I wanted to ask the panel, and you'll see very highlighted in May. As your chair, I have a conflict on May 15th. One of my girls will be graduating from Fort Hays, and the graduation ceremony is on a Friday, which is the exact same time as the panel. So Lindsay and I looked at calendars and realized we have lots of conflicts because May is just challenging, and with graduations and universities spreading them out and high school graduations. So we are looking at proposing moving our panel to May 14th. It's Thursday, same time block, and wanted to see if there were any objections before we made that permanent on our calendar. Not seeing any raised, we will move that on our calendar. And my family is very grateful for, and see, this is just why I think the panel is my family too, an extension of my family, because family first echoes what we do in Kansas. We are at 11:20. Have cut into your work group meetings. We are going to open up the work groups. And what we're going to do is allow you to go in there and decide if you still want to meet and keep the breakout rooms open. And if you do want to meet later, totally, it's your work group. Not forcing you to stay on screen. If you have conflicts, knowing that we have cut into your time. So we are going to call this the end of our formal meeting. Bree,